Well, first up, Bill, let's get ready for a champagne campaign. Now, when you are giving that toast on the wedding day or at the rehearsal dinner, there are rules. Wedding planner and author of Wonderful Weddings, Michael Nolte, shares his best practices.
Today we get to talk about fun stuff, such as toasts, which involve, of course, champagne at both rehearsal dinners and receptions. A couple of questions that people oftentimes ask me are, what toast should we have at the rehearsal dinner? And the answer to that would be that the host should speak first. And since that's oftentimes the groom's parents' party, the father of the groom would be the first one to offer a welcome toast. Typically, the bride and groom do not speak at the rehearsal dinner, but those toasts are the ones that are very sentimental. There's no time limit on it. They're usually hysterical. But always remember that the first one to speak is the host of the party. And typically, then, someone representing the bride's side of the family also speaks and thanks the groom's parents for hosting such a lovely rehearsal dinner. Now, the following day, on the wedding reception day, it's a little bit tighter. The best time to do the toast is when you have a captive audience. I always suggest that the reception opens up with what I call the grand march. That's the bridal party and the bride and groom coming in. They cut the cake, they feed each other a bite. The bridal party is all there for the photos. And the very first toast is always going to be that of the best man. The second toast would be perhaps the maid or matron of honor. If they tag team it, they've got to keep it tight. I always tell those two parties that you want to say everything you want to say, write it out, don't apologize for using a note card, and keep it to 2 minutes. You want to be sure that there's no inside jokes in there or something that's perhaps a little bit embarrassing for the parents of the bride or the groom. And the third and the final toast, again, is the host of that party, which would be the bride's parents. And so the final toast would always be that of the father of the bride. When it comes to the father of the bride and how long he can speak, though I tell everybody else at rehearsal, kind of keep it to 2 minutes and write it out, but tell the father of the bride, remember, he who's paying is saying, you're writing the check, you can talk as long as you like. At the end of your toast, the important thing, though, is to let the guests know that you have concluded. You're done. And with that, rather than just trailing off or turning around or handing the microphone to someone else, you would raise your glass. And you'd say, I'd like to invite everybody to raise their glass to wish good health and happiness to the bride and groom, today and always forever. Salute. And then everybody else will raise their glass. They'll all have a sip. The bride and groom at that time will then interlock arms and they'll drink out of their own glass. Tip to the wise, brides and grooms, don't try to offer your champagne to each other. That's when you spill down the front of a tux or a gown. I hope that those little kind of tips help you kind of think through the sequence of toasting for the wedding and how that might run for you. Having a plan is always the best way to do it.
Michael also recommends using a champagne flute that has some sort of sentimental or family value to the bride and groom.